Well, we want to head out to the Pete Buttigieg camp right now, where we have Alan Carter. And Alan, they've got to be pretty happy with some of the numbers they're seeing so far this evening.
Right underneath the bed.
Well, you know what, guys? I got to tell you, right now, I'm exhausted. Not like physically exhausted, just mentally exhausted. Because full disclosure, I'm an outsider here. I've never witnessed a caucus before, and what I just saw tonight was incredible. Right now, we are in the Knapp Center, and this has got to be one of the largest caucuses, at least what we expect to be one of the largest in the entire state of Iowa. Almost 900 people out here tonight caucusing, and right now, I am joined by Jeff Getz. He is the chairman of the caucus that was here tonight.
Yes.
I'm certainly impressed. Jeff, what did you make of tonight?
Well, I've been doing this since 2002, chairing my neighborhood caucus. And 2004, we had 366. In 2008, 560 some odd. In 2016, we had 767, and now we had 849. So each presidential caucus season, we increase the number of participants.
What do you think that says just about enthusiasm right now?
I think it is all about enthusiasm. This is not a primary. This is not going in a voting booth and just, checking the box. This requires you come out on a, Monday night for a couple of hours and stand and show your support for your preferred candidate.
And people were just so excited, you know what I mean? We're going to go ahead and toss it right now. We just got words. Well, I wanted to get you some results here, but I want to say that who ended up getting the most, Warren got the most delegates tonight at this location, 5 delegates here. Going to toss
19,
out of 19 delegates total. Going to go to the chair of the Republican Party speaking right now.
To introduce and welcome to Iowa, Brad Parscale.
Thank you, Chairman Coffin. I was going to say very simple. I want to thank a lot of people tonight. This was about organization. This is about the structure we built. So I want to thank, obviously, the chairman and all the Iowa GOP for running this historic caucus. So let's give them a hand of applause. This was a strong test right out of the gate. And I want to say it's been very nice. Person after person has done this. So many people have done this several times over, has said it was one of the most organized. And I want to appreciate all the people and the teams that took to do that. That's not my organization. That's all the great staff we've hired across this great state of Iowa, nationally, and also a partnership with the GOP here. And that says a lot. And that says we're organized and ready for 2020. So I want to thank everybody in that. None of this also would be possible without the activists and the volunteers that were on the ground today, and also all of Team Trump. Let's all give a big round of applause for all the volunteers that helped. So look, very simply, we are at the starting line today. I think a lot of us feel that I got to say, it's kind of amazing to be back here again, like staring at Eric, Donald. It just seems like, and Kim and Laura, I feel like we just did this. But we are back across the starting line again, and I think this was a great test. And nothing like the president would like more. On the first night, we set a record, right? So that's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in New Hampshire. Enjoy the evening. Thank you.
All right, so strong night for the president, obviously, but it was a slam dunk. But I think, and Jeff, I heard Jeff Kaufman, the chair of the Iowa Republican Party, quoted somewhere else earlier saying that they wanted to run a regular caucus because they wanted to keep the tradition alive. They don't want any threat to the tradition of the Iowa caucus by just having an 8-year period where it isn't done.
Yeah. Well, and that is important because the Iowa caucuses have been always a little bit controversial. Small state, rural state, small population, not a lot of minorities. Those are the things that usually are brought up. And so it's important to try to show that Iowa has an important role. I always say if you have a book, you buy a book and you open it up, there's always like an opening paragraph that sets the story so that you can continue reading and it gets exciting. And Iowa is that first paragraph in American politics. It's, here it is, here are the candidates, here are the issues, and then you continue to go to the other states to read the rest of the story. But it's a nice story, and I think I hope Iowa can continue that, and I think that's smart to have both parties have caucuses, be in the news, and show, why it's important.
Mm-hmm. We had just previously heard from Alan Carter out at the Knapp Center at Drake, who said at the large caucus site there, Elizabeth Warren walked away with the most delegates.
It's interesting, and again, and it brings up the fact that in different venues, there are different philosophical views of who might beat Donald Trump and who has good policies. And Elizabeth Warren was the superstar at one point and dropped, but there are apparently still places where she is seen as the one that can best go against President Trump. And over the rest of the evening, we may see different precincts coming in for different candidates because of that.
All right, Dr. Schmidt, thank you for that. And we're going to head back to the Local 5 studios. We want to get you caught up on other news headlines and also on the latest numbers from the 2020 Iowa caucus with Matthew Judy.
Yeah, we're seeing some numbers, and as you've heard, Pete Buttigieg won a caucus, Elizabeth Warren won a caucus. It's kind of all over the place tonight, but if we pull up some of these latest numbers, now remember we've got first alignment, final alignment, all of that. What you're seeing now is the first alignment. Bernie Sanders does currently lead that. He's got 1,916, that's 26% of the vote. Now right behind him, Elizabeth Warren. Again, reminder, this is first alignment, so this is before they do that realignment. Coming in third there is Pete Buttigieg, and fourth, Joe Biden. Now Joe Biden only has 13% right now. So right now, those are the top four. You've been hearing Dr. Stefan really talk a lot tonight about how important it is to be in the top three. So at least as first alignment goes, you've got Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Pete Buttigieg. Now it gets a little bit weird when you go to the final alignment because, well, Pete Buttigieg has actually taken the lead there. So, things are a little bit different between first alignment and final alignment. So these are all the numbers that we have coming in right now. You can see some more. These are the final alignment. As I was just alluding to, Pete Buttigieg at 28%. So when it comes to final, he has actually leapfrogged Bernie Sanders, who is kind of close behind with 26%, which doesn't equate to too many votes right now. We do just have 2% of precincts reporting. In third, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden holding steady in fourth in both the first and final alignments, and then Amy Klobuchar at 12%, and then uncommitted back behind them. So again, those top three when it comes to final alignment right now: Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. So these are all things that we will watch, but as of right now, it seems like Pete Buttigieg is doing a pretty good job when it comes to that final alignment. So these are all numbers that we will continue to keep our eyes on. But for now, let's get you right back out to Jack and Stephanie, guys.
Matthew, thank you.
Yeah, Matthew, thank you. And he was talking about the exact thing that we really want to discuss a little bit more. If you look at the numbers, Stefan, what is the answer to this, where in the first alignment, Pete Buttigieg is running third with 18% of the vote, but in the second alignment, the final alignment, he jumps to first with 28% of the vote.
Well,
so it's important to be the second choice.
It's very important to be the second choice, because if your candidate isn't viable, you then have the opportunity to pick your second choice, right? And that means that someone who is the second choice in a lot of different precincts can really accelerate to first place. We don't know if this will hold over the night, but Buttigieg has been pretty amazing how he has risen so quickly, and it's an exciting race. It's like a horse race, where you watch them nose to nose, and then one of them is ahead, and then another one is ahead. It's fun.
We're going to head out to the Bernie Sanders camp right now with Eva Anderson for a little bit more on the first alignment. Eva?
Well, I can tell you, Stephanie, that the room is getting more and more energetic. I just stepped off the press risers here, and I had a chance to speak with people. I spoke with a volunteer who came from Indianapolis, and he said, in his words, "Oh, Bernie just blew it in his precinct," and in a good way. He took it. He said that in his precinct, people were speaking 4 different languages and caucusing for Bernie, and it was really neat to see that diversity unify and come together right here in Des Moines, Iowa. He said he's never been in a place where he has felt such camaraderie, and this whole experience is energizing and inspiring. And so I feel like he perfectly captured what a lot of people in this room are feeling right now as Bernie stands first in that first alignment, as we have been reporting. Live in Des Moines, Eva Anderson, Local 5 News, We Are Iowa.
All right, Eva, thank you. And again, we're talking 2% of precincts reporting here. So we're seeing winners from different pockets. But you have this needle that you've been keeping an eye on. Is it still kind of staying true to what you thought before?
Bernie Sanders is still hanging in there.
Okay.
Yep, in first place. And it's not surprising because he has, number one, the organization, and number two, the passion of his supporters. They love Bernie Sanders, and they're going to go out and turn out for him, and it seems to be happening. We weren't sure if the younger voters, who sometimes have other things going on in their lives, would actually go to the caucuses in the numbers that he needed, and it looks so far as though they're really coming through for him.
Well, the sites that we're seeing so far tonight seem pretty busy. I mean, the feedback we're hearing is that they are full. They have a good turnout tonight.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Elizabeth Warren. We want to go out live to her campaign headquarters with Local 5 reporter Casey Nolan. Casey?
Well, Jack and Stephanie, if they can hold second place, which is what we're showing right now, the numbers I have, please correct me if you've got more recent numbers than I do, but if they can hold that second place, we talked about it earlier, ecstatic was the word at least one person used. Third, they'd be happy. I think the room here kind of thinks of it like, a medal platform. There is no prize after bronze, so they got to stay in that top three is kind of how people here are taking it. Then, what does it mean that if she stays at number 2 and if Bernie Sanders stays at number 1, when you think about how similar they are in a lot of the things they talk about on the campaign trail, I'll leave it to the pundits to talk about that, I guess, but gosh, that's a lot of like-minded people turning out to fill the spots of 1 and 2. The folks we've talked to here, though, they've said they've got the energy to go on tomorrow regardless of the results. Just to give you a quick scene setter here, the crowd is definitely packing in here at the watch party. We are at the Forte Center where the senator will make an appearance eventually, we are told. And they certainly seem to have the energy in the room when we were at the Wells Fargo Arena at Precinct 47. It looked like they had the numbers. They certainly had the volume as they were organizing over there. By the way, one note, also at Precinct 47, Wells Fargo Center, they told us a large turnout, but maybe they didn't expect enough because one of the workers told us that they had to actually call for more preferential cards. They got them, but right now it's looking like a big turnout and a good night for the people in this room so far. Jack and Stephanie.
Schmidt in, specifically Buttigieg, third in the first alignment, first in the second alignment. We're following it closely. We're trying to understand it. What do you think it means to the average Iowan that either caucuses or maybe doesn't even caucus?
It's hard to understand because it's not the way normal counting goes. You're either first, second, or third, and here you can be first and then come in second and maybe come in third later because of the different equation that's used. And people realign and they leave somebody and come to you, you suddenly jump up. And so you have to be patient to understand the Iowa caucuses. And, once they're over with, we hope people will accept the results, right? That's the most important thing, because if people go, well, that was confusing and I don't think it was fair, it undermines the credibility of the caucuses. So I hope someone besides us can explain that this is actually a legitimate process, that you come in and you have someone that you support, and then other people have someone they support who doesn't make it, and those people have to move around, and then that may mean that someone else goes up in the numbers.
Because isn't that why we came to this method of having the first alignment, the final alignment? There was an outcry for more transparency in the process.
It was, and I myself don't like what they did. I'm not much of a fan of the more complex process that we have this year. I think the party needs to maybe think about simplifying in the future. If there is another Iowa caucus 4 years from now, I really hope that they streamline things and get rid of some of the complexities. I don't think they help democracy. I don't think they help to make the party stronger. I think it would be much more, let's call it functional, if they had a process more like the Republicans have, where you go in and you vote and the vote is counted and you don't do the delegate equivalency, which I've looked at that math, and I'm not great at math, but I don't understand it very well.
Right. And that wouldn't make it a primary. It could still be a caucus, right?
It would still be a caucus because the Republicans have one that's very simple and works well and is accepted as a caucus. The people need to understand that Iowa is first and New Hampshire is second, but Iowa has to have caucuses, not primaries, or else that's the end. There's actually a law that says that in New Hampshire and in Iowa. So we have to preserve the caucuses where people physically go and meet, but it can be a simpler meeting.
Yeah, I believe it's in the state constitution of both states that if Iowa doesn't hold a caucus, not a primary, that they can't be first anymore.
They can't. Yes, that's true.
All right. Well, we're going to head out to the Biden camp with Lakin McGee, where they are getting numbers in on the first and final alignment. Hi, Lakin.
Hey guys, yeah, so doors opened at 8:30 and now there is a bunch of people here. I want to go ahead and show you what we are seeing. Remember our earlier hits? Yeah, no one was here. Now there is a ton of people. We've talked to people that say they were actually caucusing Republican and they just wanted to come out and see what Joe Biden has to say. Others saying this is their first caucus. We've never done anything like this before. I want to show you guys over this way as well. People are watching the final shows come on. We've had people dressing up. There's people out on the stage. Just a lot of people very excited for Joe Biden to get here. They've got a spot up for him up there, but we're still waiting. We don't know what time he's going to be here, but a lot of people are excited to hear what he has to say. So we do know that he was up and down when it came to actually the first alignment. So I was checking them at 7:30. He was tied with Elizabeth Warren. Then again, I checked at 7:50. He was in 5th place. And then again at 8:15, he was in 3rd place at 17%. But I do believe we know that he is now 13%. He is in 4th place is what I think the final one is there. So also want to remind you guys, he is also getting ready to hit up all the other states. We know that tomorrow he's already planning to go to New Hampshire. And planning to go to New Hampshire and just to go ahead and get the Iowa caucuses over with, wanting to get it out, because just because you don't win Iowa doesn't mean that you're not going to go further here. So again, stick with us. We're going to be learning more. We're going to be hearing from Joe Biden. Reporting live in Des Moines, Lakin McGee, Local 5 News. We are Iowa.
All right, Lakin, thank you so much. We're joined now by Mary Alice Parks, who is the Deputy Political Director with ABC News. Big night tonight. We're following a bunch of different storylines, and I suppose you are too, as we're waiting for the results to come in. What's catching your eye right now?
We're hearing anecdotally that Mayor Pete seems to be benefiting in some caucus sites where it's possible that Joe Biden supporters had to realign. But you know how this is. This is a process. And they are still clearly doing their due diligence, tallying the numbers. The state party is telling us that nothing is wrong, but that they are trying to be very careful, and that's why we're still waiting on results.
Okay.
So it sounds like Buttigieg would be Biden supporters' second choice. Is that what we're seeing?
I think that it is possible. We are seeing that anecdotally online, but you know how this goes. There's like a few reporters in a few caucus sites, but not anywhere near all of the caucus sites across the state. And we know that Joe Biden really focused on a few key parts of the state, really the more rural parts of the state. Now, my guess is that's not where a lot of the reporters are, right? The reporters are at the big caucus sites in the urban centers. So you have to be really careful when you're following results that are coming in online, some of that sort of color of people tweeting and posting on Facebook. I think it can be a little bit skewing because some of those reporters are only in certain parts of the state.
Yeah, the night is still young.
Yes.
And we know it can change in an instant. What do you think the numbers are going to mean? Everybody heads out to New Hampshire after this, and so they've got to get their name on the map somewhere. So what are they gunning for at this point in Iowa?
You know, I think that depends on the campaign, right? I think Mayor Pete Buttigieg really needs to show the rest of the country that he can win in a place like this. There's a lot of voters that are skeptical that he doesn't have a national name ID, a national infrastructure that's needed yet. If he has a big night here, that could change instantly. Someone like a Bernie Sanders has pockets of support around the country. He has teams and staff around the country. So it's a different next step for someone like him.
You definitely don't want to underperform in Iowa. Whatever the expectation of you is, whether it's winning or showing strongly, you don't want to underperform. You want to meet that expectation or exceed it.
Yes, exactly. It's more about the storylines and the headlines than it is about the final delegates. And especially in such a crowded field. Some of those candidates that have been right on the edge, someone like Amy Klobuchar, who really hasn't been able to show great polling, but has shown some upticks in the last few weeks. If she can beat expectations, then maybe that's enough of a storyline to keep her going. She needs donors to keep giving, and tonight will make a big difference with that.
Right.
We were expecting big turnouts tonight, maybe record turnouts, and what we're seeing so far from our crews out in the field is that these caucuses are well attended. Are you seeing the same with your crews?
Yes, absolutely. But I'm not sure that we'll be able to know for sure if it was record turnout for a while, especially if the state party is being this careful to give us any results. I can imagine they're going to be very careful to give us any total turnout numbers.
All right.
Mary Alice Parks, Deputy Political Director with ABC. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
And we're going to head out to John Schaefer. He is at the Republican Watch Party right now, and he had an interview earlier with Dr. Ben Carson.
That's right, Stephanie. Yeah, I caught up with him out in Clive. He was over there for that precinct of caucusing. He was excited about it and honestly trying to quell some rumors that may have been circulating, or at least as Republicans view rumors circulating about President Donald Trump. Here's a little bit of what he had to say when we caught up with him earlier.
This is more than just a simple election. We're talking about, do we want to continue the lifestyle that has characterized American greatness over the centuries, or do we want to switch to another system, namely socialism?
He is the current U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and he said he was, again, excited about that opportunity. He said life has changed quite a bit in the 4 years since he tried to run for this Republican nomination back in 2016. Obviously did not come out successful with that, but has enjoyed his time in the current role that he has with this administration and hoping again for that second term. That'll do it for now. Let's send it back to you guys. John Schaefer, Local 5 News. We are Iowa.
All right, John, thank you. So we still are hovering right around that 2% of precincts reporting right now. We've been there for a while.
Well, yes, and I was going to comment on that. These things started tonight at 7 o'clock. It's now almost 10 o'clock. You know, that is a commitment that is very difficult for a lot of people. And that's one of the criticisms of the Iowa caucuses, is that you not only do you have to go at a certain hour on a certain night and go at night, but that you have to often be there so long. And that, I think, is caused by the complexity of the way the voting goes.
Well,
that's just not acceptable.
It's difficult for some people. Imagine if you're a single parent and you work a night shift. Well, you need the night off from work. You need a babysitter. You need transportation so you can shuffle around a high school gym in Iowa for 3 or more hours, and that's a big commitment to cast one vote for one candidate.
And if you're somebody like, I have a lot of friends who have back problems, who have knee problems and other physical issues, where it's difficult for them to do something for 3 hours at a time. And so I think the Democratic Party in Iowa needs to take a serious look at that. And this year I think it looks as though the caucuses are going to be stretched even longer than they've been before. And it may be that the new rules are just making it longer and more tiring for people.
Yes, well, the ABC correspondent did say that she believed that the party was exercising an abundance of caution in reporting the results right now, or do you think that it's just overwhelming, too, to tabulate all of this information that they have?
It's both. It's the fact that the system with this 3 levels of reporting that they have to do, just takes more time. And secondly, the party doesn't want to report and blurt out something, and then tomorrow morning, on Tuesday morning, they have to go, no, that wasn't right, because then that is truly a huge issue. So we don't know when they're going to finally essentially have enough confidence to tell us what the results were tonight.
They're probably acutely aware of, I mean, they wanted to do it all for transparency, which is great, but they're probably acutely aware of the ability for spin that this allows when there's this much reporting of the numbers all the way through the process.
Well, that's right. That's right. And the reporters and the candidates and the staff of candidates have to leave tonight for New Hampshire. They want to get out of here because they have to start the campaign there. And the airplanes are warming up at the Des Moines International Airport, but the results are not coming in yet. And they don't want to leave until they can have their victory speech.
Right.
And so we'll have to see how that works out this time.
Well, I mean, again, I keep refreshing the results, hoping we're seeing new numbers, but we're still at 2%. So it sounds like it could be a long evening.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And we're seeing the same trend of Buttigieg in third place in the initial vote, and then Buttigieg in first place in the final alignment. And so, I don't know, there's sort of a good argument for somebody being somebody's second choice and such a not great argument for it all at the same time.
Yes, because it's confusing. And you know, confusion raises the fear that something is not being done right. You know, if people don't understand something, they think somebody is messing with the system, and that's never good in politics. And it's not the Russians that are messing with it, I think, in the Iowa caucuses. I think it's the rules of the Democratic Party that are making for the kind of uncertainty of how this thing is going.
Right.
Do you think a lot of voters, when they were vetting candidates in their own mind in the months leading up to this, you know, you get attached to one candidate, and then you have to throw your support behind somebody else. Do you think a lot of them maybe struggle with that act?
No, because only about 10% or maybe 12% of eligible Democrats go to these caucuses, and those are people who are pretty well informed, so they know what the game is.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were undecided going in tonight still.
Well, I remember when I wanted to go to prom with my first choice, but I had to go to prom with my second choice, and I was disappointed. Just for a little bit, an anecdotal story.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
But he still went. He still went to prom. Well, we want to head out to Rachel Droz. She is at one of the caucus locations. And Rachel, we understand there might be a little bit of a technical difficulty.
Yeah, Stephanie, that's right. So IDP is reporting that there are some issues with the app that they are using. That is a new way that these precincts are reporting data in. Right now, the last I looked, there were only 2% reporting of precincts. When I spoke to IDP probably a month ago, they were saying that around 8 p.m. they were expecting these results to start coming in. By 10 p.m. they had told me about a month ago, they expected most of the results to come in, not just 2%. So IDP's communications director, Mandy McClure, did actually release a statement. I'm going to read that for you right now. She said, "The integrity of the result is paramount. We have experienced a delay in the result due to quality checks and the fact that the IDP is reporting out 3 data sets for the first time. What we know right now is that around 25% of precincts have reported, and early data indicates turnout is on pace for 2016. So that is a little bit different from the results that they're showing on their website, things that are really just coming in slow today. What I do want to point out is I'm in an empty room. Our caucus is already over here at Des Moines University. Things went off without a hitch, basically. The alignments went very quickly, and so I'm going to actually go talk to the caucus chair to see if he's having issues reporting those results in or not. So I'm going to send things back to you at the Iowa Events Center. For now, Rachel Droz reporting live at Des Moines University.
All right, so
Rachel.
Quality checks is what they're saying at this point, that they're on pace with 2016 reporting, but that it's slower than they want it to be tonight because of quality checks to assure that the data is correct.
Well, and that's fine. You wonder, you know, if you have an app that allows you to basically enter that information and send it very quickly, it should be quicker and not slower. So I don't know what the quality checks are that they're doing, but certainly if you have to confirm 3 different votes as opposed to just one, it's going to take longer. And they may not have calculated that in when they made these changes and these reforms. So it's unfortunate, I think. People want results more quickly.
Back to your point that maybe it's time to simplify the process or take a look at it at least.
Yeah, I think they have to do it. I really do. By the next presidential round in 4 years, I hope the Democratic Party in Iowa will say there's nothing that is super advantageous the way we're doing it now. It can be fair and it can be a wonderful process, but much simpler than this.
Would there be external pressure outside of Iowa to get something like that done?
Yes, absolutely. The other thing is I had a very good friend of mine say to me today, it's typical of Democrats to want to over-regulate things, and the Democratic Party in Iowa is just representative of the Democrats' desire to just write lots and lots of rules, which I don't know if it's true or not, but that was his take on it.
Okay.
Yep, and here are the latest number. Final alignment. We still only have 2% of precincts reporting. We have no delegate equivalents at all yet. And although I don't know if they'll wait until they hit a certain trigger point to even start reporting those, but we're looking at, as Rachel Droz said, we're looking at a lot of big rooms that were filled with people that are empty now. They're home, maybe watching us,
and
looking for
hoping
the numbers.
to see the results of what they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we're going to go back into the Local 5 studios for the latest numbers update with Matthew Judy.
Yeah, and let's not forget, guys, that this whole first final alignment, them releasing these numbers, was born a lot out of controversy around the 2016 Iowa caucus when Hillary Clinton got 49.9% of the state delegate equivalent and Bernie Sanders got 49.6%. And a lot of people in the Sanders campaign talked a lot that they were concerned about a few different things at caucuses. So all this was, ironically enough, put in place for transparency. But, now ABC is reporting, as they just mentioned, that we are facing some technical difficulties. That's what the Iowa Democratic Party is saying, at least. So right now, we are still stuck on 2% of precincts reporting. And those numbers, you can see them right here. Bernie Sanders, as of the first alignment, in the lead with 26%. Elizabeth Warren with 22%. Third is Pete Buttigieg. And fourth, Amy Klobuchar, up to fourth now. But again, you've heard Dr. Steffen talk a lot about how important it is, as well as Casey Nolan out at the Elizabeth Warren campaign. They've both talked about how important people see it as getting those first, second, and third spots. Now, when we go to final alignment, you've got Pete Buttigieg has jumped Bernie Sanders, although that has tightened up. Again, just 2% of precincts reporting, but look at that, just a 16 count difference. So they are neck and neck. Third, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden in fourth there. So he is no longer in fourth as of the first alignment, but still hanging on to fourth in the final alignment. So we understand it is confusing. It is the first time around with them releasing all of these numbers for everybody, but we will continue to follow them as they come in, and hopefully they come in sooner rather than later. But for now, let's head on out to Jack and Stephanie, guys.
All right, Matthew, thanks so much. And we were wondering out loud at what point we would start getting delegate equivalents from the Iowa Democratic Party. And you say the answer is we don't know?
We don't know. I mean, I tried to find out how they're going to report the results of these three different votes that they take, and it's not clear if they're going to release all of them at the same time or wait and release the delegate count later. And that's not helpful. It's not helpful.
Because that's the only count that truly matters.
Sort of, except that there aren't really that many delegates selected tonight. I mean, that's kind of a myth. That's another reason the Democrats have to abandon that ridiculous idea of delegate equivalence. Iowa has such few delegates in the first place. A lot of them are actually selected at the county conventions, which come after the caucuses, and then the congressional district conventions of the party, and then the state convention. That's where a lot of the delegates actually are selected. So this delegate equivalency thing is, in a way, a kind of a phony measure. I'm sorry to say that, but that's actually what people are telling me.
Okay.
Well, that's your unvarnished take.
There you go. And with that, we're going to take a break, and we will be right back.
Over on Local 5.
Democrats are going to be waiting for me at the Holiday Inn.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Your Iowa Caucus 2020 coverage. I'm Stephanie Engelson. We are live here at the Iowa Event Center.
Yeah, and I'm Jack Miller, and we're in the media scrum. We're in the big room where all the reporting is happening nationally and internationally. It's going to be an exciting night here, 2020 Iowa Caucus. Numbers are just starting to trickle in. We've seen that a lot of the caucuses have concluded, but the numbers are... Everybody's waiting on the numbers, and we know that there is a little bit of a known issue with the app that each caucus precinct reports back to the state that it's a little bit slow, and they're acknowledging that at this point.
And it's a new app. It's the first year it's being used. So Dr. Stefan Schmidt is joining us for some political analysis here, and we've talked extensively tonight about the concerns leading up to the caucus with a new, not only a new system of reporting results, but then this app.
Yeah, the Democrats are trying to basically modernize the way they report things. And, of course, apps are what we all use for everything. So they created a new app that is supposed to be secure and faster and so on. But they had some really serious problems because a lot of the precinct captains didn't understand how to use it. So when they tested it, they were getting a lot of errors. And so they've tried to work that through. They do have a backup system, which is that precinct captains can call in the results on a phone the way they used to, but it may be that those complications are slowing down the speed with which we are getting results, because as we said, there are some precincts that are empty now. There's not a single person there except one of our reporters, and yet the results are not coming out yet. So they're sort of trying to make sure that they get the numbers right. And that's good, but on the other hand, it's frustrating.
It's not that these caucuses are taking forever and they can't come to a conclusion.
Right.
It's that these results are just hovering at about 2% of precincts reporting right now.
Yeah, which is very low given the fact that it's been going on for 3 hours.
Right. Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on now. I'm not sure if we're going to go to Eva Anderson or if we're going to go to Matthew Judy. We're going to go to Eva Anderson live at the Sanders headquarters. Eva?
Well, Jack, you were just talking about that some of the complications with the app and even that hotline that you can call into where some of the precinct captains can call in. I met a volunteer last night who flew in from D.C. about 5 days ago specifically to serve on that hotline, and I have to say he did express some nerves about how that was all going to work. So I think right now we're seeing that play out. Well, right now in the room, I can tell you people have a lot of energy. The screen behind me is playing a live feed of some national news coverage, and every time it takes to this room, people burst out into chants. Of course, they're chanting Bernie. I've spoken with several people here who are coming freshly out of their caucus precincts, many of them from Iowa, and some of them also volunteers who've come in to door knock and canvass and even work at those precinct locations to help explain to people what's happening. I did have a chance to speak with a young man named Diego Garcia who came from Indianapolis. His precinct was at a mosque where he says people spoke 4 languages, and he said the whole place just took the cake for Bernie. Take a listen.
There's 30 people for Amy Klobuchar and over 100 for Bernie Sanders. And it was a tiny mosque, so it was crowded, it was crazy. I mean, it was quite a scene. It's incredible seeing democracy at work, really.
Democracy in action, indeed, and sometimes there are some delays with that democracy. So we're going to wait it out and continue seeing how these Sanders supporters are feeling, and we'll be sure to check back in with you soon. In Des Moines, Eva Anderson, Local 5 News, we are Iowa.
All right, Eva, thank you. Energy. That seems to sum up the whole spirit of the Bernie, not only the campaign, but the people who are coming out to support him.
Bernie has a passionate following, and they stuck with him, I think, through the 4 years since the last caucuses, and they really, really need to win tonight. They will be so disappointed if they don't, and there's a concern, as we talked about before, that if Bernie doesn't win, some of the Bernie supporters will just walk away and go home and not support any of the other Democrats who might end up being being the candidate of the party, and that's a serious business.
But at the same time, it seems like, to me, like Bernie's in a pretty powerful position because he's been the hot candidate who has moved upward the most in, let's say, the last month in Iowa caucus polling. Yet, if he doesn't necessarily win, doesn't he move on to states where there are more delegates than Iowa, where he's got bigger donors than Iowa, and he's bound to do very well?
Yeah, I mean, Iowa is just the launching place, right? And you start in Iowa, and then you have to have that momentum going into other places, and you have to have the money, and you have to have the volunteers, and your message has to connect with people. And Super Tuesday is, of course, the big prize, which is Texas and California, the largest delegate count, and many of the other states, South Carolina and Nevada and others. So, yeah, Bernie probably can sustain that momentum because he does have passionate followers in all those places. And he's raised a ton of money. Amazing amount. For a socialist, it's a lot of money.
Socialist Democrat, right? Okay, I'm sure that he would want you to get the terminology.
A democratic socialist, right.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to head out to Rachel Droz at her caucus location. She has an interview lined up right now with the precinct chair there. Rachel?
Yes, Stephanie, we are with Bill Brock, who ran this caucus here at Des Moines University. So explain to us some of these app problems that you personally saw. Kind of go back to last week when you said that this app, you first saw it for the first time, the update over the weekend, and then what happened today?
The app seemed to work fine last week when I tested it. There was an update that came through over the weekend, and that did not work for me. And then today when I tried to log in on my iPad, a keyboard popped up on the screen, but it was only half of a keyboard, so I only had half of the digits and half of the letters to use, and that meant I could not type in my PIN to access the app. So it was one of those situations where we had a backup telephone number and we had to use it.
And so when you called that telephone number, it kind of took a while, and you guys just kind of got lucky that you kind of had an inside connection. So there could be other precincts out there that don't have that connection.
I would imagine there may still be some precincts that are on hold or having difficulty getting through. I'm sure that the party will resolve this, though, in good order, and that we'll have results before too long here.
And now, we were kind of talking before, slow results is kind of annoying for some precinct chairs, people that are running the show here, but you said it's kind of not the end of the world.
Oh, not the end of the world at all. I mean, we want to make sure that we report accurate numbers, and we did that here in this caucus. Things went very smoothly. It was a very contested caucus, but in the end, I think people enjoyed the evening, and there was a lot of participation. There were only over 500 people in this room, so I'm really pleased with how it came out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to send it back to you at the Iowa Events Center and try to get some more information on these problems that the IDP's app is having. So for now, live in Des Moines, Rachel Droz, Local 5 News. We are Iowa.
All right. So we were listening to that interview, and your eyes got a little wide over there, Dr. Schmidt.
Yeah. Well, we saw the question about how the app was going to work, and at least in this precinct, it seems to not have worked. And that's why the party had that backup system, which is the old-fashioned telephone call. But if that happens in a lot of precincts, no wonder it's slowing down the reporting, because if you can't use the app, it's a little more cumbersome to call and have to read the numbers. You know, the Democrats tried very hard to hire a new company. They had an app before 4 years ago that they didn't like much. They hired a new company, created this new app, and I guess, at least for some people, it isn't working the way it was supposed to. Maybe they'll get their money back.
That'd be another story, but the DNC is watching. I mean, they want this to go as smoothly as possible, right?
Well, they do, but there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
You know, if an app doesn't work, it just doesn't work.
All right.
True. Very true. All right. Stefan, thank you. We're going to head out to Alan Carter. He is at the Buttigieg camp now. And they've got to be happy with the numbers that they are seeing right now, even though we're just kind of lingering around 2%.
Well, there's certainly a lot of enthusiasm here, right? There people have just started filing into the area behind the podium there where Buttigieg is expected to speak a little bit later on this evening. But mixed in that excitement, as you said, is also a lot of angst. Folks were expecting there to be a little bit more of a clear picture by now. Some of the early returns that they have seen are pretty encouraging, but right now they kind of want some finality here. We're going on 3 hours now since the caucuses began, and still, you know, really lagging behind as they're dealing with some of those issues and getting those numbers reported. So right now, a very upbeat but anxious mood here at the Buttigieg campaign.
All right, Alan, thanks so much. So Pete Buttigieg seems to be the biggest beneficiary of the two-step process right now, doing pretty good in the first alignment, doing first place in the second alignment.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the way the caucuses work, because a lot of people go in backing a candidate who doesn't make the 15% viability. You have to have 15% of the number of people in that precinct in order for you to be a viable candidate. And those people have to choose somebody else to go to, and Pete Buttigieg is the one that a lot of them are going to. So that, after the alignment takes place, could be very helpful to him.
And that's why when the campaign worker asks you if their candidate is your first choice and you say no, they say, well, can we be your second choice?
That's correct. That's right. And you want to get people to pledge that, you know, if their group isn't viable, support my guy. And the Buttigieg people have been doing a good job getting caucus attendees to agree that if their candidate doesn't make it, it's some of the ones down on the list, that they'll go with him.
What's the spin game that comes out of that now heading into New Hampshire? Because Iowans are done. After they're done caucusing, they have to start impressing a whole new round of people.
New Hampshire is a whole different ballgame this year, although Bernie Sanders, I think, is going to win New Hampshire. He's doing very well there. Elizabeth Warren is the one that should be doing very well in New Hampshire, and she may because she's from Massachusetts and is a neighbor. And Buttigieg is going to have to try to wedge himself in there as the moderate candidate because, obviously, Warren and Sanders are the progressives. And so if it isn't Biden, maybe Buttigieg can sell his position in New Hampshire, and that would be very helpful to him. Going forward to South Carolina and other places, it gets more complicated. Right. We don't want to really confuse our viewers with that tonight. But it's a really difficult process, and you have to have a lot of stamina and a lot of optimism to leave Iowa and then try to make it in these other places.
And they have to really be able to turn on a dime and take what they've learned from tonight and make it play for them the best way they can.
That's true. And I think Buttigieg has a theme which is very quiet and sort of healing. He doesn't attack anybody. And I think a lot of Democrats feel that is helpful, that they're tired of politicians yelling and shouting at each other and insulting each other. And the interesting thing is that the fact that he is the gay candidate, first time in American history, is not hurting him very much. It seems like people are accepting of that, and that's not important to a lot of people who are supporting him.
Okay. Well, thanks, Dr. Schmidt. Let's check in on how things are going over at Elizabeth Warren's campaign headquarters. Here is Casey Nolan live with the latest. Casey.
Jack and Stephanie, the energy's picking up for sure. The crowd is packed in here. If we're not at capacity, we're going to be soon, I'd have to believe. And the people who we've talked to who were caucusing have finished and have made their way here now. They feel pretty good about how their candidate was doing. A lot of folks picking up on her over Bernie Sanders, even if they might share some of the other planks in their platform. A lot of folks, one we talked to, said getting rid of student debt, that's what had her for herself and her children. But let me give you straight to someone. If we have the sound available, I want to go straight to the person we talked to most recently. We asked her what it was like, where she was caucusing, and asked her to give us the vibe as it pertains, as seen through the eyes of an Elizabeth Warren supporter. If we have that, let's go to that now, please.
I see it as my duty to like the rest of my country because we are the first in the nation. We really do lead what the outcome of this election is going to be. So I feel like if I'm not out here caucusing and making my voice heard, then I'm not doing my job.
I want to clarify. let's see what we can see what's going on as we pull out here just a little bit. No one's on the stage. I'm not sure where they got the cue. I think there is a camera, false alarm. We've got a still photographer down in front taking some pictures, so people are making sure their signs are well represented in the press. The woman you just heard from there, I want to clarify, she actually showed up over at Precinct 47 to support Joe Biden earlier tonight. And that was a sentiment we've heard from a lot of people, the seriousness with which they take the responsibility of being the first in the nation. The other woman we talked to here at the Elizabeth Warren watch party, let's try it again. Let's go to her. Let's hear from her herself. We'll try it again.
Start with a candidate who can bring our party together. We need all Democrats united. I'm someone who treats all our Democrats with respect. I reach out and I run on core democratic values that we can all support.
And then back here at the Elizabeth Warren watch party, when we talk to her supporters, they tell us they're confident, very confident, in fact, that she will be in the top 3. They're hopeful that she'll be in the top 2. Jack and Stephanie?
After that.
All right, Casey, thank you. A lot of energy in that room, too. But we heard Elizabeth Warren talking about Democrats needing a candidate who can essentially unite the party. And you said earlier that something President Trump has done a really good job of uniting Republicans. So do you see these candidates now kind of realizing instead of attacking each other, they're going to have to get the party rallied?
I think they've known that, but they really have such different philosophies about what the Democratic Party is. And so the progressives like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders really have a position that's quite different from the 3 moderates that are running. And it's hard to glue them all back together because there isn't an outstanding leader who is the unifier. Donald Trump has done an incredible job, and we still don't know how he did it, essentially gluing together Republicans who often also were fighting amongst themselves. But yes, that's true. It must be discouraging for people at these parties where they're waiting for the results, and the results are not coming in. And so they're going to have to wait and wait and wait before they can really cheer their candidate.
Yep.
Thanks, Dr. Schmidt.
Take you out to Amy Klobuchar's camp right now. We're expecting to hear from Amy herself.
Okay. All right. Apparently we don't have it.
On her. Another one of those false alarms where they're getting the crowd.
Yeah.
Keeping the energy alive in the room because they are waiting on these results. They don't want the energy to die in these rooms. They want people to stay and enjoy themselves. But the night's kind of lingering here.
The night is lingering, and of course you have to go in with your message that you are the winner and that you people have supported the winner, and let's go on to New Hampshire, let's go on to South Carolina, which is what Howard Dean did, and it didn't work out for him because he had the Dean scream. But that's what they have to do. They have to try to basically inject a lot of adrenaline into this crowd. And if they have to wait until midnight or 1 in the morning or even later before results actually come in, that's kind of discouraging. It should be quicker.
We're about to hear from Amy Klobuchar, and we'll go to her immediately. Oh, sounds like she's about to speak, so let's go over to Klobuchar Central here.
Staff that has stood with us all the time, and 3 because my husband and daughter are here with me tonight. And I want to thank them. I want to thank our tireless field organizers, the unstoppable volunteers who would never give up. And we are feeling so good tonight, and I cannot wait. Somehow, some way, I'm going to get on a plane tonight to New Hampshire. We are bringing this ticket to New Hampshire. So even in a crowded field of candidates, even during the well-earned impeachment hearing of Donald J. Trump, which kept me bolted to my Senate desk for the last 2 weeks, we kept fighting. And you kept fighting for me. We have started in a blizzard. And a lot of people didn't predict I'd finish that speech. That's what they were like, how could she do it? Then in the summer, they kept saying, is she going to make it through the summer? And then debate after debate after debate. And all I can say is we are here and we are strong. And with that same grit that got us through that blizzard, we are now ready to head to New Hampshire. And my friends here in Iowa, you know we have beaten the odds every step of the way. We have done it on the merits, we have done it with ideas, and we have done it with hard work. Because, thank you. We know in our hearts that in a democracy, it is not about the loudest voice or the biggest bank account. It is about the best idea, and it is about the person that can turn those ideas into action. We know that our party can't win big by trying to outdivide the divider-in-chief. We know that we win by bringing people with us instead of shutting them out. Donald Trump's worst nightmare is that the people in the middle, the people who have had enough of the name-calling and the mudslinging, have a candidate to vote for in November. Donald Trump's worst nightmare is that our fired-up Democrats will march to victory alongside a big coalition of independents and moderate Republicans that see this election just as we do. That this election is, yes, an economic check, but it also is a patriotic check. It is a decency check. It is the simple idea, it's a simple idea that the heart of America is so much bigger than the heart of this guy in the White House. Our country cannot take another 4 years of Donald Trump. Our collective sense of decency can't take another 4 years. The rule of law can't withstand another 4 years of a president that thinks he's above it. Our democracy cannot tolerate another 4 years of a president who wants to bulldoze right through it. The American dream cannot take another 4 years of a president who thinks he can choose who gets it. His playbook is not hard to understand. It is really 3 words: divide and demoralize. Well, I have a playbook that's 3 words: unite and lead. And that is how I have passed over 100 bills as the lead Democrat in the United States Senate, in the middle of that gridlock. And that is how I have won elections in the reddest of red congressional districts, in the bluest of blue congressional districts. The president, though, he might as well have a sign on his desk that says, "The buck stops anywhere but here." Look at what he has done. He blames everyone for our problems. He blames everyone, people that shouldn't be blamed. Who does he blame? He blames immigrants, right? He blames Barack Obama. He blames the Fed chair that he nominated, the energy secretary that he appointed, the generals that he commands, and yes, the King of Denmark. He even recently blamed Justin Trudeau for cutting him out of the Canadian version of Home Alone 2. Who does that? Who does that? So let me tell you what I will do. When I am behind that desk, I will take responsibility instead of passing it on. I will reach across the aisle and work with Americans in good faith. Instead of picking fights, I'll bring this country together instead of pushing it apart. Some of you may know that old story about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And it was a story about how after he died, they put his body on a train and it worked its way to Washington, D.C. And there's a story of a reporter who came upon a man who was crying by the side of those tracks. And the man had his hat on his chest and he was sobbing. And the reporter looked at him and said, "Sir, do you know President Roosevelt? Did you know him?" And the man says, "No. I didn't know President Roosevelt, but he knew me. He knew me. And what we are missing so much right now in our country is that sense of empathy. We are missing that caring. And I promise you this, I will bring back that sacred trust between the American people and the President of the United States. If you are sick and tired of hearing how great the economy is when you don't feel it, when your paycheck is stretched to the breaking point month after month, I know you, and I will fight for you. If you are sick of choosing between paying for daycare for your kids and long-term care for your parents, I know you, and I will fight for you. If you're sick of being torn between filling a refrigerator and filling a prescription, I know you, and I will fight for you. And if you want a Democratic nominee who can make our tent bigger and our coalition wider and our coattails longer, if you want that, I know you, and I will fight for you. And if you are sick and tired of the extremes in our politics and the noise and the nonsense, you have a home with me. So please join our campaign at amyklobuchar.com. Join us, because we are going to be here, it looks like, a really long time tonight. And you will have plenty of time to join us at amyklobuchar.com. So let's stay up. Let's stay in a good spirit, because you all know what happened out there in those precincts. You know that we have been punching way beyond our weight. You know that despite some limited resources compared to some of those bigger bank accounts, we are way on the board. So let's stay up, let's stay up, let's stay happy, and let's head to New Hampshire. Thank you, Iowa. I love you.
The whole thing is stopped.
All right, you just heard from Senator Amy Klobuchar. She's got a lot of energy tonight. She's trying to keep her people there excited as the night kind of drags on. I mean, that's the theme that we're seeing right about now. These results are just not moving at this point. But you heard her there, Stefan, say whatever happens tonight, she's on the plane to New Hampshire. So she's continuing on in this race. What do you see as her weaknesses?
The Democrats who are contesting this have been very kind to her, because they have not brought up what they bring up about other candidates, which is her not great record with African Americans. There have been cases in Minneapolis where blacks were mistreated by the police, and she didn't follow up on those very well. And I think now the question will be, can she get black voters to support her as you get into states that are more diverse? Iowa wasn't a big problem. New Hampshire is not a big problem because they're mostly white states. But boy, when you get to South Carolina, you have an enormous number of black voters. And I think the questions about her role in not going after police brutality is going to definitely come up.
Is that something she can overcome?
No, it isn't. I don't think it is.
One other thing that's increasingly become a storyline tonight is the problem with the reportings of the vote. I'm looking at, we're receiving independently some information, and other media outlets are reporting that some precinct secretaries in Iowa have waited on that hotline for as long as an hour, and right now the Iowa Democratic Party, a source, is telling another media outlet that there's no indication so far that this is a hack. So that is a storyline that's unfortunately quickly developing tonight.
So, you know, we began by talking about problems with the app and so on. This is more concerning because, you know, they should have sufficient capacity in a telephone reporting system to receive lots and lots of calls and reports. And it just seems to show that the Iowa Democratic Party once again underestimated what they had to do to make caucus night a big success. It's very sad, actually, because this is the kind of thing that will take away Iowa's first in the nation. Bad results and questions about the capacity.
Mm-hmm. And amid what could possibly be record turnout tonight, but we don't have any indications so far.
Yes, and especially because of the massive turnout, which I think is happening, the system got overloaded again. Mm-hmm. It's disturbing. It's as I said, it is not what a competent party should do when they set up a reporting system. We may worry about Vladimir Putin, but you know, this is the reality. Is it wasn't the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So what does the party do next? You know, once we do get results in, and then they have to explain what happened tonight, what do they do?
Well, I think the party needs to really seriously look at simplifying the caucuses and have a system that is much more streamlined than this. And I hope they do that. They had a chance to do it with these reforms, and they didn't do it. They went the opposite direction. So it's concerning.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, we're going to head out to Joe Biden headquarters. He is on the stage right now, he and his wife, and we expect them to speak to that crowd here in just a moment. Let's listen.
Folks, well, it looks like it's going to be a long night, but I'm feeling good. I want to thank you all our supporters, and all those incredible people who hold public office in this state that endorsed us, and all the endorsers from all across the country, my colleagues in the Senate, in the House, and from the Vice Presidency, all of you, and all the people from Delaware, California, all the people came from all over to campaign here. I want to tell you. And most of all, I want to thank the Iowans that are here. Well, the Iowa Democratic Party is working to get this result, get them straight. And I want to make sure they're very careful in their deliberations. And indications are, from our indications, it's going to be close. We're going to walk out of here with our share of delegates. We don't know exactly what it is yet, but we feel good about where we are. And look, so it's on to New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and well beyond. We're in this for the long haul. And I want us to remember, not just tonight, but throughout this campaign, thank you. This isn't just another election. This is well beyond our party. This is about ending an era of, ending an era, God willing, of a president who, this is bigger than any of us. It really is. We cannot allow Donald Trump to be reelected to the United States presidency again. I'm ready to give him a new nickname. The former President Trump, Chris. The former President Trump. And folks, as I said, it's bigger than any candidate, bigger than any party, and folks, I said from the outset, Jill and I both said, we're in a battle for the soul of the nation. And that's not hyperbole. We really believe that, and I think it's been demonstrated every single hour he remains as President of the United States. Folks, each and every one of us knows that deep in our bones that everything this nation stands for is at stake. And I really mean it. 4 more years of Donald Trump will fundamentally alter the character of this nation. And character is on the ballot. That's what this is. Everything that makes America is at stake, and literally our democracy is at stake, in my view, our view. I say our view because you've been doing as hard as I have. Folks, I love her too, man. Well, I tell you what, And the other reason we're running and we're going to make sure it happens is we've got to rebuild the backbone of this country. The working class, the middle class, they've been getting laid out badly by this administration. The middle class is being hurt very badly. But look, you know what? We have to unify this country as well. Everybody understands that CEOs and Wall Street bankers didn't build America. Ordinary, hardworking people led by unions built America. Unions. And folks, we need a president who's not only ready to fight, but is also ready to heal this country. We can't hold grudges. We've got to be able to go out and unify the country, because the president is supposed to heal as well as fight. And that's exactly what I plan on doing, we plan on doing, all of us in this hall plan on doing. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I'm going to go all over this country, every part of the Democratic Party, and unite it. Men, women, gay, straight, everyone, black, brown, a whole universe of people out there. Because folks, there's nothing we've ever failed at when we've tried to do it together. Nothing America's ever failed at. And so, ladies and gentlemen, all my friends, and by the way, I want to take a special thanks again to Alice Shapeberger and the firefighters. You've been incredible to us. You've been incredible to us. But folks, everybody knows who Donald Trump is. Well, it's fortunate they do know now. They didn't know last time, I don't think. But they know now. And folks, we got to let them know who we are. We choose hope over fear. We choose science over fiction. Unity over division. And compassion over cruelty. And maybe most importantly of all, truth over lies. Folks, we're going to do this, I promise you. I promise you we're going to get this done. And God willing, we'll do it together. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. On to New Hampshire.